Hello, brothers. This is Mr. Ellis. Our next topic will be looping. I'm going to demonstrate the three loops that we're going to use. First being the while loop. After that, I will demonstrate the do while loop. And after that, I will demonstrate the for loop, which will hold off of actually giving assignments for the for loop until we've covered arrays. Here we go. I want to first look at the while loop. Okay. A while loop is a structure that contains a decision. The decision is if the condition that I want to loop in is true, then I will perform another iteration of the loop. Otherwise, I will end the loop and go on to the next sequential statement. Okay. But in order for me to enter the loop, the flag or the condition that I'm checking has to be true to cause the first iteration of the loop. So in the sequence, before I hit the while loop, I will set my condition so that I will enter the loop. Okay. In this case, I've used a Boolean variable called flag. I've set it to true. Okay. I will go to the decision structure of our while, the condition, and as is while flag is true, I would like to execute the body of the loop. At some point in this loop, I must set the flag to false. Once I've done all of my processing and I enter my last iteration, then I want to set the flag to false, because while this is true, I'm going to execute. Which brings us to the problem with the while loop and the do while loop. It's not automatic. You have to turn it on and you have to turn it off. When I set this flag to true, I'm priming the pump. I hit the condition and I start to loop. If I don't turn it off, that will endlessly loop until it times out. Okay, Java will turn it off for you, but it is a catastrophic error and your program will crash. Okay. Now let's look at the code for this looping structure. Okay, so I've set up a uh, project and I've called it Ellis Looping. Inside, again, our packages are named with the following: com.mrellis.looping. Some of you guys have had an issue with that naming convention. You go from the project, inside the project you find the source. On the source you create a new package. On the package you create a new class, and you name the class accordingly, Ellis while loop. Okay. Now, in order that I loop through this, I'm going to set my flag or prime the pump. So I'm going to use a Boolean variable called flag. I'm going to set that equal to true. I want to have some condition that will cause me to turn it off. So what I'm going to do is create a counter, an integer counter, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. And then I want to perform my loop. And the syntax for while loop is while some condition, and our condition will be if the flag is true. So I'm just going to say simply flag, meaning that it is true. And then I have a body. Inside the body, I want to check to see if the counter is greater than. So I'm going to go if counter is less than equal to, and I had to say counter is less than equal to 10, then in that area I would like to set my counter up by 1 and indicate that it's been executed. So I want to counter and use an increment. We talked about that. And then my system.out.println and indicate that it's in a loop here. So I'm just going to say the value. The value of counter is okay, and now I want that to be reversed. So I'm going to cut that out and place it behind the actual printout because I want to see the 0. And now the else part of this if is going to be what I'm going to do when it's not, when I'm turning it off. Okay. I'm going to say and then I'm going to say goodbye. Oh, shucks. All right. Now, simply put, as long as counter is less than 10, I will display the counter and increment my control variable. When it hits 11, I'm going to print out the counter, say goodbye, and turn off the loop. This is what turns the loop off, because while flag is true, we're going to execute. And at the point where flag becomes false, we will stop execution. I want to check this to make sure it works. And I did get my 0 in like I wanted. So let's look at this. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, goodbye, turn it off. Okay. At 11 is when the loop ends. The else takes control, prints out the counter, prints out goodbye, and turns the loop off. The next loop we want to talk about is the do while loop. In the do while loop, we want to look at the flow charting first. Okay. The do while loop is similar to the while loop in that it has a condition in it that must be primed. However, the body of the loop of a do while is always performed at least once. In that performance, you will recognize that it could be performed and then the while condition not met and it goes on to the next sequence. If it is met, then it's going to perform an iteration, but it is always performed at least once. So again, flag is set to true to prime my loop. Okay, I like to think of it as in a menu. Okay, the menu will be in the body So the menu would be presented first, and then it will check to see if an item on that menu turns off the loop. Okay, but the logic of it is you must prime the pump before you start your loop. Next, we hit the body of the loop. Okay, and in that body the flag must be set to false, so we can turn off the loop. We don't get an infinite loop. Okay. Then we hit the condition. It checks to see if flag is true. If it is true, it performs another iteration. Otherwise, if flag is false, it continues on to the next sequential statement. Next sequential statement. Okay, and then it ends. Yeah, I want to save that guy. Okay. Now let us go into our do while loop. Okay. In the do while, I'm going to perform all the statements that we did in the while, except for we're going to move the body up. So I'm going to say flag boolean, set it equal to true, and then I want a counter, integer counter, and I'm going to set it to equal to 0, and now I'm going to perform my loop. Do, and inside here I want to say if the counter is less than or equal to 10, was it? Yes, 10, I used 10. Then I would like to put out a system message. If I could type, I'd be dangerous. And say in this system message that the value of counter is what is the value of counter if it's not counter? Okay. I also would like to increment my counter, and I use plus plus again for incrementation. You can also decrement. These loops can go in reverse. I mean, you can count down or you can count up, but you must at some point turn off the loop. So in the else situation, I'm going to print this guy out. And say same thing, and I'm going to say goodbye. And I'm going to turn my flag off. Okay. And this is the while. So I'm going to put it underneath. The condition is flag. And I want to put a semicolon on this guy to end my statement. Okay. This should function the same as our while loop did. Let us look at this. And running. And you can see that the output was just about the same. And in order to prove this, I would like to say the value of counter is the value of counter in this do while is. That way, although they look identical, you'll know that it was printed out by the do while instead of the while. I don't know why I'm so particular. Okay, there you go. Now, what do you notice? It's the same output, but I'm going to guarantee you that this body of statements was executed before the flag was tested, and thus we have a perfect loop for menu logic. Okay, let us go through this. In order to keep this video shorter, I'm going to demonstrate a menu. Let's do that. New class, and I want to call my class Ellis menu demo. Okay, and I want to do some of the same things, except for I'm just going to use a menu to show you how that looks. Okay, first I want to prime the pump, so I need a boolean. It's not necessary to use this format or this logic here. You don't have to use a boolean. You can use the value. You can check the value. You can check any number of things to turn your flag, to turn your loop off. I use flag because it's black and white. True or false. Okay. And now I'm going to go through the menu. I want to present the menu. So I'm going to do a do, and I'm going to do a int. What I would like to do is do this outside so I don't declare it. Int x inside the loop. I'm going to go x equals then my string input will be J option pane. And I want to present a menu, which is going to take a little time. So what I'm going to... Alright, I've in order to keep this short, we're going to skip the for loop and just talk about the do while here as a menu processing. The logic of this is simple. I present the user with a menu. I check to see that a correct selection has been made. I have here 1 deposit, 2 withdraw, 3 transfer, 4 balance check, and 5 if you would like to exit. I present you with an option to exit out of my menu. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you to make a correct selection. It is going to be infinite in that only the user can turn it off. Okay. In a reality, if you want to limit the user to a number of opportunities, right here in the default, you would increment a counter, check that counter to see if it had reached or had surpassed the number of attempts you would like to allow, and then turn your flag off. Okay. But this particular demonstration, he will be able to loop as long as he doesn't select exit. Okay. And the flag here checks to see if I've set that flag to exit. Okay. Let us run this and check it. It is similar to other programs we've done. It presents a J option pane. I want to go 1. It says deposit selected. I want to cancel that because it says deposit selected for all of these. I want to say withdraw. Okay. Quickly corrected because I copied and pasted the two statements that are in each case node, down throughout the switch statement, and I didn't change deposit. So it is now. If he selects one, it's deposit. If he selects two, he has selected withdrawal. If he selects three, he has selected transfer. If he selects four, he has selected balance check. And then if he selects five, of course he wants to exit, so we say goodbye. That's a mouthful. So let us check this and make sure it works. Presents me with a menu. We've already seen deposit. There we see the withdrawal, and we note that it has looped back through. And so now I'm going to do 3 for transfer, 4 for balance check, and then finally I would like to exit. Well, let's not exit. Let's do 1 since we. Okay. And now let's exit out of the loop. There you go. Okay. This has been Looping with Mr. Ellis. Unusually long video, so we skipped the for loop. We will cover for loop when we come to processing or processing of arrays, and we will cover it in class. Thank you.